Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For the returning subscribers, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. If you're new here, thank you as well. Please consider subscribing and turning on the post notification bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can make this yummy red velvet cupcakes. They are soft, moist, and very delicious. I'll also show you how you can make the frosting, so stick around until the end of the video to see the whole process and the outcome. If you try out this recipe, please let me know in the comment section how it turned out. And for those who've already given me your feedback, I really appreciate it. Stay tuned, I have more interesting cooking content coming your way. Without talking much, let's get straight into the video. Okay, so now I have everything here. This is my sieve, which I'll use to sift the dry ingredients, and my bowl. In this other bowl, I have 1.5 cups all-purpose flour. I have 2 teaspoons of food color. I have 3/4 cup of white sugar. And then I also have half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder. And then this is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. This is 70 grams unsweetened cocoa powder. And then I have a 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. You can use canola oil if you have some. I also have 1 egg, which is at room temperature. And then this is half a cup of buttermilk, which I made from fresh milk that I had in the kitchen. So I'm just going to start working on the dry ingredients first, and then the wet ingredients, combine everything together, and we'll be good to bake. So I'll put the flour into the sieve. The reason why I am sifting this flour is because flour tends to have some lumps, which will not result in a smooth batter, which is what you're aiming for. So you'd better sift your flour and even the other dry ingredients if you want, but the most important thing to sift is your flour. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm using all-purpose flour, and that is why I'm also using baking powder. But in case you're using self-raising flour or cake flour, you can just skip the baking powder. I'm mixing everything together with a whisk just until everything is combined, and then I will now put in my sugar and mix it. You can't sift the sugar because, again, you know the particles are big, but the sugar doesn't cause the lumps. So you'll just go in with the rest of the dry ingredients, again whisk everything together, then set it aside. I know someone somewhere is looking at me right now and wondering like, girl, your whisk looks funny. This is actually my whisk attachment from the hand whisk because I can't find my other whisk, but it's still doing the job. You can use a spoon or a fork or a spatula, whatever you have in the kitchen for this part. So I'm going in with the wet ingredients now. This is my buttermilk, which I made from fresh milk and some lemon juice, fresh lemon juice, because I didn't have buttermilk in the kitchen. Then this is 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. And then this is 1 teaspoon of my vanilla essence. And then the oil, which I had shown you earlier. And then 1 egg. Please make sure when you're combining your wet ingredients that everything is at room temperature. The reason for that being, when you're mixing everything at room temperature for the wet ingredients, it helps everything combine so much better as opposed to the cold temperatures from the fridge. So if you want to bake and you had your ingredients in the fridge, you can just set them aside, and then once they achieve that room temperature, you can get on with the baking. Boom! Hurricane Mercy. Look at all that mess. Anyway, the kitchen is always messy, and the messier the kitchen, the tastier the food or whatever you're preparing. So Did anyone notice that I'm making red velvet cupcakes and I'm wearing red? I mean, if staying on brand was a person, this is it. Anyway, I'm going to mix the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients. Slowly, just pour in the mixture slowly and mix it. Remember, you do not want to overmix your butter, because overmixing the butter results in very dense cake, which I don't really like it. So unless you want a dense cake, do not overmix your butter, because the gluten activates and when it bakes, the cake is just so dense. Anyway, you want to achieve not an entirely smooth consistency, but it will still work out just fine. So after this, you'll maybe fold it in for around 3 to 4 minutes. It will be okay, as long as you're not seeing any lumps of flour. And then I'll go ahead and transfer it into this container, which I'll use to now put it into the tray which I had lined earlier. At this point, my oven was also preheating at 180 degrees Celsius. So you also want to do that while you're making the batter. Start preheating your oven. And also, to save on time, I had already lined my cupcake tray. So when I'm done with this part, I'm going to just put the ingredients in the pre-lined tray and then pop it in the oven to bake. So that's about done. You want to tap your tray just to remove the air bubbles from the batter, then set it in the oven for around 20 to 25 minutes or until a toothpick inserted comes out clean. For the frosting, I'm using a 1/4 cup of hot milk to dissolve the sugar. This is 1 cup of icing sugar or caster sugar. And then I have 200 grams of margarine. You can use unsalted butter if you have some. And 1 tablespoon of vanilla essence. So I'll go ahead and now mix the sugar and the hot milk so that the sugar dissolves completely in the milk and the texture of the frosting will be smooth when we're eating it because of the hot milk. But after I mix them until the consistency is smooth, I'll set that in the freezer for around 10 minutes. If you're putting it in the fridge, you can do it for around 15 to 20 minutes before you can mix it with the rest of the ingredients for the frosting. I'll just keep stirring it in until the consistency is smooth. Look at that. That's ready to go in the freezer so that you can start working on the next part. Now on to the next part of the frosting. I have my margarine and my vanilla essence. If you have unsalted butter, you can use it as well. I'm going to whisk that margarine until it's soft and fluffy, and then I'll add vanilla essence to that. Continue whisking until it's really fluffy before I can add in the icing sugar and milk mixture to finally finish off the frosting. Now this part can be totally done by hand as well, but if you don't have an electric mixer, you can use the hand whisk, but it requires a really strong arm and patience to whisk it to the perfect consistency. Sorry, but when I was filming, I thought I'd be able to show you well how it looks like, but unfortunately it's not visible, so my apologies for that. But now I want to mix in the sugar and milk mixture to the margarine mixture, which I'll do bit by bit while whisking so that the frosting is smooth and perfect. The cupcakes are ready and they've been cooling on the rack for some time now. The reason why I've not put all of them here is because I want to frost a few of them so that I can show you, and then I'll frost the other ones later. I really love baking days because my house really smells amazing. Right now there's this nice bakery scent or smell here in the kitchen, actually the whole house, and I really love it. It's actually making me feel very hungry, so once I finish frosting these cakes, I'm going on a rampage. Oh, I thought I was recording, but my phone had gone off kitambo, so I frosted off camera. But this is how they look. This is the outcome. Looks really good. So now I want to taste how the cakes turned out, and I am super excited. But look at how soft and spongy they look. Just look at that. So fluffy. They look so delicious. I haven't tasted them yet, but from the look of things, this recipe is a win. Try it out and let me know. I promise you won't be disappointed. And if you've been struggling to make red velvet cupcakes or cakes, this is your go-to recipe. Guys, you cannot make a red velvet cake without buttermilk and cocoa powder. Otherwise, that will just be a plain cake with red coloring. The buttermilk ensures that the cake is very moist, as you can see in mine, and the cocoa powder just gives it adds some nice flavor to the cake. So if you want to make red velvet, the two important ingredients are cocoa powder and buttermilk. And if you don't have buttermilk, like I've told you earlier in the video, you can combine your fresh milk with some lemon juice. Just adjust the ratios depending on the quantity of buttermilk you need for the recipe that you're using. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends. See you on the next one. Bye.